Hello, everyone. The struggle is real. If you've been here since 12:30, you know this is the third time that we've gone live and had to stop. So hopefully this time is the real time. Yeah. How's the volume, everybody? All I can think of, and I've quoted this in several videos, I feel like, but all I can think of is Harry Potter. Can you all hear me? Can you all see me? Thank you. Okay, it's okay. Great. Okay, so people will continue to arrive, hopefully, over the next couple hours as we're streaming, and hopefully we don't have any more problems so we can keep streaming. But this is the first of many spiritual study halls. So the way this is going to work is I'm hoping to do this weekly, maybe even twice a week, if everybody likes it and everybody enjoys it. But it's going to be, the beginning of these will be just chatting, really casual. Anybody who wants to ask a question can type that in the chat, and I'm here to answer it, as long as I can answer it. And if I don't feel confident answering it, I'll let you guys know. But questions can be about anything. Deity worship, spirituality, witchcraft, magic, anything spiritual related that's on your mind. Also, we can open it up to just chatting about what's going on for you guys. So you can talk about what's going on in your spiritual practice. A horrible ad. You can talk about anything you want and ask any question that you want. So that's really fun. I'm really excited to be starting this. Hopefully we can build a little community of supporting each other's studies. And after we have a little while of office hours, just kind of chatting with each other, then we're just going to move into study hall. So that's where everybody can work on whatever it is that they're working on. Bring a book, read, even if it's a fiction book. Well, I'll just support you in your reading. If you're in school, in college, anything like that, do your homework, do your classwork. If you work from home, turn the stream on and get your work done while we're also working on what we have going on. Yeah, so the sky's the limit. You know, maybe you're crafting something, work on your art, work on your crafting while you're watching the stream. So that's what we're going to be doing. Really chill, just supporting each other, and a nice way to hold ourselves accountable for the work that we need to get done. And even like if you have a reading goal, you can come in here and work on reading those books you want to get done, and we will support you. So every time I'm just going to work on whatever I've got going on. I might edit a video or read a book or work on classwork, because I'm pretty much always in some kind of spiritual class because I love to learn. But yeah, so if anybody has any questions about how this is going to work, pop them in the chat. If anybody has any spirituality-based questions, you can pop those in the chat, and I'm here to answer them. Any questions that are sent, I will try to answer, and I will try to get to all of them if there are many. I will prioritize ones that are sent with a super chat. So those ones will get priority, but I will try to answer everything. So yeah, that's how it goes. So let's just jump right in. You can see we have our first question. Micah, hopefully I'm saying that right. Yell at me if I'm not. Yell at me nicely if I'm not. So Micah asks, are there any reasons you would advise somebody against starting a witchy pagan spiritual YouTube channel? Have you faced any negative consequences of being open about your path online? This is a really good question. I love this question. Really, really good. So thank you, starting us off with a strong one. Let me think. Yeah, I would say definitely don't start a channel early on in your practice. And this is for a lot of reasons. Partially because you're still learning. You're still kind of a beginner. So just focus on soaking everything in and not so much sharing. Keep it for yourself for a while. It's for you. Your spirituality is for you. So keep it for you for as long as possible until you really feel like, okay, I want to share this. Uh, so that's my first thought on that. Also, you have to have a thick skin. You got to be ready to receive some anger, some misplaced emotion coming at you from people on the internet. That's anybody who's on the internet, no matter what you're doing on the internet, we experience this. So I would say I would advise people to wait, and I would advise people to think, why am I thinking about starting a channel that has spirituality at the forefront of it? What am I trying to achieve? What are my goals if I'm starting a channel? Am I wanting to educate people? Am I just wanting to make fun content of my practice just to share it? Am I going to be more of an aesthetic channel? Ask yourself all these questions. What are my goals? Why am I doing it? And I would definitely say, if you're thinking about it, wait at least a few months before you start so you can make sure that it's really for you. But there's definitely a lot of difficulties with being openly spiritual and pagan online, because everybody thinks they know better than you what's the truth and what's correct. So people do sometimes behave that way. But most of the time, I will tell you, like 95% of the time, the response is positive and beautiful and amazing. So you don't really have to worry about it that much. Occasionally, if one of my videos goes viral, I'll get a bunch of Christians on my comment section being mean to me. But that doesn't really faze me because I don't really care what they think. So that doesn't really faze me much. It's more so when people come on my channel and try to tell me that I'm doing something wrong within my spiritual practice, or try to tell me that I'm doing something offensive. That's when I have a harder time with those comments, because my whole life is about making sure I'm harming no one. I try my hardest within my practice, within my daily life, to be the best person that I can. And being an ally to every single community that is marginalized in any way, being an holistic person, part of the LGBTQ community, someone with mental illness who's had mental illness since they were a kid, I care a lot about inclusivity and doing what's right. So when people comment those things and they're not right, I get really upset. But other than that, the response is usually overwhelmingly positive. So that's my advice on that. So next question, Troa, and again, if I pronounce your name wrong, just type in the chat how it's said. I'll try my best. But making your own tools, is it okay? Yeah. Yes. It's more than okay. I would say do it. Do it all the time. Do it as much as you can. Do it all you want. So spiritual tools, we often get caught up in looking at spiritual tools like in stores and on websites and things, and seeing how beautiful they are and how amazing they are, and really wanting them and wanting all of them. As witches, a lot of the time we're a little bit of we tend to lean toward hoarding and maximalism most of the time. Not every witch, but a lot of us. So it's easy to fall into that trap of like, buy, get this, get that, get this, get that. But if you're making your own tools, then you're saving money and you're putting yourself, your own heart and soul into your spiritual practice. So I think that makes it really special. And as a shaman, a big part of shamanism is creating your own spiritual tools. So I've shown these in a lot of my videos, but I have a rattle that I made myself. I have a drum that I made myself. My wand I made myself. So I really encourage making things. It makes it even more personal. It's the same as kind of writing your own rituals, writing your own spells, writing your own prayers. It makes it that much more impactful because it comes right from you. And making your own tools is really fun also because you can get an idea for a tool and then your spiritual practice will feed into making that tool. So, for example, I wanted to make this one specific mask to embody my power animal. And I saw it during a shamanic journey, how it would look and what it needed to be made of. But I didn't have any of those tools or items to make it. So I trusted that over the next few months, weeks, I would find those tools. I would come across the things I need because my guides had shown me that I would need those things. So they're going to put them in your path. And then I found everything that I needed over the next couple months, going on hikes, walking in nature, just seeing different branches on the ground that would be perfect for what I wanted to make. It ended up being mostly made out of long pine needles, and I found all of those outside on a walk. So make your own stuff. Yes, do it. That would be my answer to that. Okay, next question. So James asks, does it make any difference starting the casting of your circle in the north versus the east? I've heard people swear it has to be one or the other. Yeah, people love to say that something has to be a certain way. Which makes sense, people don't like ambiguity. People want an answer, which I relate to. But there's no one way to cast a circle. There really isn't. As long as you're calling on the directions and calling on the elements, you're casting a circle. So you can start in the north or the east, whichever one you prefer, whichever one feels right to you. So I personally always start in the east, and that's partially because my altar faces the east. So I usually just sit down at my altar and I'm facing east, so I'll just go east and then work my way around. So it's completely up to you. You don't have to do it a certain way. You're not doing it wrong if you do one or the other. Just do whatever feels right to you. Yeah, and if anybody ever comes at you and says you're doing it wrong, or that's not right, it should be east first, it should be north first, just let them go on their little spiel and then be like, okay, and just move on. Because, like I said, some people just really like to tell people what the truth is. And spirituality is all about following your intuition and trusting yourself and your inner wisdom. So do what feels right for you. Screw the rest. As long as you're not harming anyone else or hurting anything or hurting yourself, you're good. Okay, next question. Stephanie, recently I've fallen off the spirituality. How can I reconnect? I've picked up a book along the way that I can read on my way to work or back home. Do you have any advice? Yeah, this is a really common experience. Everybody experiences this. I've certainly experienced this. Any human being is going to go through periods of time where they feel a little distant from their spirituality or their beliefs or their faith, no matter what religion they're a part of. So perfectly normal. Definitely don't, sometimes people really get down on themselves because they feel like, oh, I don't feel connected, or, oh, I'm feeling like I'm in a spiritual lull. Have I done something wrong? Or will it ever come back? So be gentle with yourself. Be loving and kind to yourself. We all go through periods like this. But advice for kind of getting out of that and getting back into your spirituality, there are a lot of things you could do. And again, just like the last question, listen to your gut. So whatever your spiritual practice looked like before, go back over that and be like, what are things I could start kind of trying to reintroduce? Something that I really recommend, that is something that I do basically every day, especially on days where, if you're familiar with my channel, I'm autistic. So sometimes I'm really burnt out and I don't have much to give mentally and sometimes even physically. So if you're feeling really spiritually disconnected, you could do this. I like to call it doing nothing, but that's not really a great name for it. I should think of a better name for it. But what I mean by doing nothing is if you can go out in nature, like if you have a backyard or if there's a park near your house that you really like, any little bit of nature that you can go sit in and just do nothing. Like literally do nothing. Just sit there and just be. And the point of this is to get in touch with the energy around you. So this is one of my favorite ways to get reconnected to my spiritual practice and to get reconnected to myself, but also I don't have to expend that much energy and I'm not having to really like do anything. I'm just existing. I'm just being. Welcome in, Leah. Hope you're doing well too. Hope you're having a good day. So yeah, I would say one thing that I would recommend is if you can go in nature, Stephanie, and just be. Just listen to the sounds around you. And you may find that as you're doing that, you start to get connected to that divine source that's all around us. You know, when you can hear the birds, when you can feel the wind and hear the wind, when you can hear the trees in the wind, it feels like source talking. You know, nature is divinity. So definitely try to get in touch with that simplicity of your spirituality. Don't focus so much on like, oh, I'm not reading all my spiritual books, or I'm not studying enough, or I'm not doing enough ritual, or I haven't sat at my altar in a few days. You know, sometimes we need that space away, and that's totally fine. But that would be my biggest piece of advice, would be just to reconnect in a gentle way, ideally through nature, if you're Wiccan especially, because nature is our church. So yeah, that would be my main suggestion. I'm thinking if there's anything else. Yeah, I would, yeah, and if there is, I don't know what kind of book you got that you can read, but audiobooks are really good too, because that's, again, you don't have to put much effort in. You can just pop your AirPods in or your headphones on and just listen and absorb it. But yeah, be gentle with yourself. Let yourself have a bit of a time away. You know, we all go through slumps with different things, whether it's a reading slump or an exercise slump or a spirituality slump. So that happens. And if you can get yourself to gently meditate for even 3 minutes, that's great too. That's a great way to get back into it. And also make sure that you're setting yourself up for success when you're setting expectations for yourself on how much spiritual work you're going to be doing. So, like, if you've fallen off your spirituality and you're wanting to reconnect, think about, where in my schedule can I fit this thing? So maybe your mornings are really busy and maybe you don't like to have to sit down and meditate in the morning. I'm not much of a morning meditator. I find that I end up just thinking about everything that has to happen that day, and then I just get nothing out of the meditation and end up feeling really stressed. So I don't ever expect myself to do that in the morning. Sometimes I do it in the morning if I'm feeling that way on that particular day, but I don't expect myself to do it. So I plan to do that later in the day. I do that before bed, or I do that when I get done with my work day and I'm about to chill on the couch for the evening. So figure out where you can put it in advance, schedule it and plan it, so you're not like, oh, it's been 3 days and I wanted to do this and I haven't done it. Yeah, so scheduling can help too. But again, you know, just let yourself ease back into it. When the time is right, you'll find yourself reconnecting. But really try that doing nothing thing, doing nothing in nature. I think that will really help. That really helps me a lot. If I'm feeling really disjointed and disconnected, that always helps me feel more grounded. Okay. Ooh, another question? Can you make a tool out of anything, like glass, plastic, etc.? Yeah, good question. So I tend to stick to, if I'm making a tool, I tend to stick to natural materials. So wood, you know, like branches I find on the ground, things that fall off of plants, flowers, flower petals, dried fruits, dried flowers, anything that is found in nature, feathers, really great, pine cones, and you can get creative with all these things, you know, breaking things up, or tying things together. Glass is definitely fine also. I would say glass and metal are also fine. If you're going to use metal in any tools that you create, then look up the properties of that metal because different metals have different magical properties. So you want to know if you know what your tool is going to be for, what's the purpose of this tool, and then pick the proper metal that goes with it based on that metal's magical properties. So you don't want to, if you're making a tool for the purpose of communicating with the Fae or the She, the fairy realm, then you would want to use a metal that isn't going to offend them. Because fairies are deterred by certain metals. So that you can apply that to anything. That's a little note on metal. And then plastic, I would say, is a no. Don't use plastic. Unless you absolutely have to for whatever reason, then you could use plastic. It's not like it's going to hurt anything. But plastic is kind of, it's very low vibration and it's very, it doesn't feel alive in any way. And that's when we make our tools, we want them to be as powerful as possible. Ooh. You guys started falling down. I bet that was terrifying. It's like timber. But yeah, don't use plastic. I would say don't use plastic because it's low vibration and because it's not, hang on guys, let me fix this real quick. Okay, hopefully we're good. Just making sure you're awake. Jump scare. But yeah, plastic is low vibration, and plastic is also not usually very aesthetically pleasing. So we want our tools to also be beautiful to us, because that just makes it more special. But what was I in the middle of saying before we had an avalanche? Oh, I remember. We want our tools to be made of things that will increase that tool's power. So plastic is not a very powerful substance energetically. So we would rather use metal, wood, flowers, leaves, feathers, all these things that have life energy in them, life force energy. Those things will add power to that tool and add power to your practice. So that's a note about that. The only thing I would say don't use is plastic. Again, if you for some reason had to use plastic, then that's fine. It's not going to negatively hurt anything. You just might find that that tool isn't quite as impactful or powerful. Will you make a video about the fairies? It's a subject that is interesting to me. Yes. Yeah, I would love to do that. Yeah, I have a little fairy altar in my backyard. And it needs to grow. It needs to grow more. I definitely feel that. It's only 2 little houses, and I want a whole village. Because I've also got some trees in my backyard that always have mushrooms on them, like chicken of the woods kind of mushrooms. And the fairy altar that's in my backyard, weird things will happen. The door of the one fairy house is very hard to open and close. It's really stiff. And it'll be open or closed. It'll be open one morning and then closed an hour later. And I'm like, who opened and closed this door? So I need to add some more to that. I think they want more. But I will definitely make a video about the fairies, talking about kind of basic information about them and how to work with them. It's good to know that you guys want that. Yeah, always. I love recommendations. I love requests for videos because I'm making them for you guys, so I want to know what you guys want to see. Okay, anybody else have any more questions? Wondering if I'll make more about Bastet. Yeah, I would love to make more about Bastet. Yeah, I could make, yeah, I have my general spotlight video on her, But yeah, we could make more about, more mythological stories about her. We could also make some videos about more about how to work with her and things you can do with her. But yeah, that would be fun. I love Bastet. Bastet is the first deity I ever started working with. So she's really special, and I know quite a bit about her because she's the first deity that I ever started studying. Yeah, I started working with her when I was 18. Oh, I'm glad it's helpful, Stephanie. Thank you for being here. Yeah, and everybody's brought really great questions. What is saint worship? Yeah, so I am not super well versed in that. I I was almost going to say I don't work with any saints, but I guess that's not even really true. Uh because when I first uh when I started studying shamanism with my shaman, he led me through, all kinds of things, but he at one point he led me through a journey to the upper world, which is where I met Mary Magdalene. And she's a saint. So I was going to say I don't work with saints, but I guess that's a bold-faced lie. Cuz I do work with saints. I guess I work with Mary Magdalene. And my neighborhood has a lot of statues to St. Francis. So that is a thing also. I don't work with St. Francis, but his presence is very potent in my neighborhood and life, like where I live. I'll be walking around with my sister's dogs and be like, hey, St. Francis. And like when we moved into our house, there was a little necklace pendant that was St. Francis that they had left on the windowsill. And when I contacted them, like, do you guys want this? They were like, we don't even know what that is. So I don't know how it got there. But yeah, so maybe I should be working with St. Francis, but I don't know. But yeah, so I don't know much about that, but I can say, there might be, maybe there'll be a Christian witch that will see this at some point and will comment and give you more information about that. But what I can say about that is any kind of energy being, you work with them pretty much the same way. So, any kind of deity, angel, saint, they're all energy beings. So you work with them all basically the same way that you would work with a deity or any kind of guide, spirit guide, anything like that. And while we're waiting for another question, I'll do the annoying thing that YouTubers do. Like this video. Give this video a like. And you see we have our little kitty cat here on the screen on the bottom right. So when you interact with the stream, the little kitty cat will do things. I'm not going to tell you what they are because you got to find out when you interact with the stream. But yeah, so subscribing, hitting the join button and becoming a member will also make the cat do a little something. Sending a super chat makes the kitty cat do a little something. So just noting. Also, our little kitty cat needs a name. Very important, very urgent situation. So everybody drop in the comments what you want to name the cat. Maybe after I'll put the best suggestions in a poll on the community tab and we can all vote on what we're going to name our little stream cat. But yeah, so be thinking about what we should name this little cat. Because I'm not so good at naming things. I get overwhelmed with all the choices. Leah, how would you describe your relationship with animals? Oh, most of my life is interacting with animals. I gotta tell you. I love animals. Animals are my life. That's how I would describe it. I have 3 cats, and I live with my sister, and she has 2 dogs. And she also has a snake. So we've got a little zoo going on. I guess it's more like an animal rescue, because all of our pets are rescue pets. Even my sister's snake was rescued. He was living at at a place that did a lot of like reptile education and things. And he was the snake that they used to teach kids about snakes. So he would get handled a lot by people. And he didn't really like that. So they were trying to rehome him. And my sister adopted him. So now he's very happy, he lives with us. His name is Sibelius. Uh, so yeah, I would say my relationship with animals is most of my life. I'm obsessed with animals. I think animals are pure. There's no other way to put it. They're just pure. Uh, so yeah, or even like if you're familiar with my channel, you'll know I'm obsessed with birds. I'm obsessed with birds, and my neighborhood is flourishing. The bird population is flourishing. That is for sure. Like every single morning you step outside, it's just birds chirping, birds chirping, birds chirping. We have parrots, green parrots. I'm forming a relationship with my neighborhood crows. I talked a bit about that in my last video where I was cleaning my altar. But yeah, my animals are really special to me. And I am actually looking right now. I talked about this in some of my YouTube shorts and then also in the video that I just recently posted. But I just started volunteering at a hospice, giving Reiki to hospice patients. And my next thing that I really want to do is I really want to volunteer at some animal rescues, giving animals Reiki. Hello, everyone. I'm back. I went and got various things I'm studying and reading right now. So far, our cat name suggestions are Ice Cream and Samantha, which both have great potential. So everybody keep the names for our little cat friend coming. And I gotta tell you, I'm waiting, very anxiously waiting on the edge of my seat for somebody to hit that join button and become a member, or hit that subscribe button, or send a super chat. Because one of those things will, well, all three, but if you do one of those things, it'll make the little kitty cat do something. I'm just saying. And I am easily amused, so I really want to be amused by it. But keep the names coming. Put them in the chat. What do you want to name our little cat friend? Our little study buddy. Okay. I'm looking for questions that I missed. Any tips or suggestions for working with Morrigan? Yeah, I don't work with Morrigan. So I'm gonna leave that there. If anybody works with the Morrigan, feel free to comment or put in the chat suggestions for working with the Morrigan. But yeah, I don't work with the Morrigan. But I did make a video about the Morrigan, the basics. I do know all the basics about the Morrigan, but I don't work with them in my practice. But yeah, if anybody works with the Morrigan, sound off. Share your experience. How do you choose a sacred text for your worship? Say more words. Explain more what you mean. And I would be happy to try to answer. Do you mean like a sacred text to follow, like that already exists? And we'll probably keep doing questions for another 10, 15 minutes. So if you have any other questions that are spiritually related at all in any way, feel free to pop them down. Or any question at all in any form. Dear chat, why are we here? What's the point of life? The one you make for yourself. So do you mean, how do you choose, like, what kind of sacred text you're going to create for yourself? Is that what you mean? Yes. Okay, cool. Thank you for clarifying. I don't want to start answering your question and then just start like rambling off on a tangent that has nothing to do with your question and you're like, that's not what I meant. So how do you choose the kind of sacred text that you're going to make for yourself? So that definitely takes time to develop and come to fruition. For sure, definitely not something that happens quickly. And you know, it's gonna evolve. Like I assume you're kind of mostly talking about a Book of Shadows or some kind of version of a Book of Shadows. So I have a Book of Shadows that's been endlessly in the works since I first started practicing when I was 18. And now I'm about to be 26. So 8 years of continually developing my Book of Shadows, and it is nowhere near done. It is like less done now than it was when I started making it. Because that's just the nature of it, you know, as you learn more and as you evolve and grow as a spiritual practitioner, that's just the way it goes. It's just going to continue to need to be altered and added to, and very foolish thing. But if you've seen Charmed, there's a lot of misinformation in Charmed. But one thing that is true is they're always adding to the Book of Shadows. So that is accurate. But yeah, so it takes time to develop and really figure out what you're going to do and how you're going to do it. And I might make a video all about a Book of Shadows and, kind of starting yours and continuing to work with your Book of Shadows and continuing to create it. So we can talk about that a lot more in depth when I make that video. I'll prioritize that because I can't believe that's a pretty basic concept. I can't believe I haven't made a video about that over the years, but I will definitely prioritize that. But when you're creating your own kind of sacred text, your own Book of Shadows, you want it to really represent you as a spiritual practitioner. So it can be good to look at other people's Book of Shadows, other people's kind of sacred texts that they create, but don't get too caught up in what other people are doing. You can do your own thing. You don't have to follow what anyone else is doing. And sometimes if you look at what somebody else is doing before you start doing what you're going to do, it really impacts the way you're going to do some inspiration from other people. That way it doesn't impact your own uniqueness as much. But yeah, I'll make a whole video about that. What is your biggest evolution / change in your practice since the beginning? Ooh, that's a good question, Leah. That's good. That's good shit. So, the first thing that comes to mind is trust. Self-trust. When I first started out, I didn't believe in myself at all. I even doing anything. Like, what are you even doing? Is anything even happening while you're doing this? But I know from experience that what I'm doing is real and what I'm working on is real. And I am doing something. I've had countless experiences that have shown me that. So I would say the biggest change is I trust myself a lot more. I believe in myself. And that has come with time for sure, is what gave me that. The other thing that comes to mind is confidence. It's growing slowly, especially since I started Dandelion Spiritual Academy and I've been teaching classes. Started teaching classes about a year ago is when I taught my first Reiki level 1 class last May. So yeah, that has been very confidence building. Leading classrooms has been very confidence building. And teaching others the things that I know helps build confidence. But yeah, I would say those things are the biggest things. But the other thing that I don't really know how to articulate in very well and put it in words, so hopefully this will make sense as I kind of piece it together as I talk. But the other thing that comes to mind that's changed the most from the beginning of my practice to now is I don't want to say, I don't really know how to word it, but it's like because of my self-trust, I'm a lot more centered and calm and consistent. I feel like when I first started out, I put a lot of pressure on myself and I wanted to go from beginner to very, very advanced and very, very well versed in all things spiritual, like that. Like, I'm a perfectionist. So I really wanted to be like perfect spiritual. Even going back to that first, I think it was the very first question someone asked on this stream. It relates back to that of, having a spiritual practice online. When I first started that, any little comment would really affect me, whether it was positive or negative. If somebody said something really positive, it would affect me. It would make my day great. If somebody said something negative on my channel, it would ruin my day. And it would be all I would think about. And I would feel the need to argue with that person or talk to that person and try to explain to them why they're wrong and get them to kind of back down. And now if I get like a vaguely, and it's rare that this happens, but if I get like a negative comment on YouTube telling me that I'm doing something wrong or I'm going to go to hell or whatever, I don't really care. Like a lot of the time I just like chuckle and then I move on. So yeah, that like self-assuredness, that self-reliance, that self-trust, that's a big change. Any advice and or suggestions for someone wanting to work with Lilith? Yeah. Uh Okay. Yes, there is always a first try. Literally, I'm in the middle of talking about how I'm an intense perfectionist, and then everything just gets completely fucked up and doesn't work. And it's funny because every time I try to stream, I always do a test stream first to make sure everything's working, and everything works. And then I actually go live for real, and then everything falls apart. And that is life. But like I said, as we stream more and more, I'll get all the kinks ironed out, and it won't be a problem anymore. But yeah, so we were talking about Lilith. Yeah, so Lilith can be intense. Lilith can be a lot. But she is very, like, the healing she will bring you is potent. It's intense. So when we work with Lilith, we definitely want to be slow. Like, we want to ease into it. We want to be gentle with ourselves because she can be intense. And I have a video on my channel about Lilith where I talk about this. But when I first started working with Lilith, she basically, I started doing a spell with Lilith, first thing I ever did with her, that was, the intention of it was I felt like I didn't deserve good things. And so I wanted Lilith to help me release that so I wouldn't feel that way anymore. And basically, she put me in a circumstance where I was not safe to test me. And I don't want to say I failed the test because that's very negative and that's not how life works, But I struggled with the test and it didn't go as well as I would hope. And it ended up being a traumatic situation that I had to heal and grow from. But the point of that situation that Lilith kind of put me in, yes, it hurt me, but it brought about a lot of growth that would not have happened had I not been in that situation. So she's intense, but she's purposeful. So that situation, I could have put a stop to it. I could have left the situation. I could have said, no, I deserve better. I don't deserve to be hurt. I'm leaving. But instead, I didn't stand up for myself, and a bad situation ensued. So through that, Lilith showed me you have to be willing to stand up for yourself. So that's what Lilith does. She shows you the truth of what's going on so that you can adjust with her guidance and support. But I would say in that video I have about Lilith is a great first spell to do with Lilith. So that is my biggest recommendation, is do the spell that's in that Lilith spotlight video. It's a really great resource, and it's a really great way to get started with her. What do you do with uncertainty? Life is uncertainty. So that sucks. But yeah, I would say I am not a person, I have OCD. So, and I have a video on my channel all about my OCD experience if you want to know more about that. But, control is something I like. And I wish I could control everything all the time. But that's not going to happen. So, yeah, uncertainty is really hard for me. Uncertainty is something that I'm still getting used to coping with, for sure. Especially as an autistic person, I don't like change. I don't like surprises. I don't like uncertainty. So I think uncertainty is about, if you're someone like me who struggles with uncertainty, you just have to be gentle with yourself and remind yourself that nothing's in our control. We can do our best, but it stops there. And that's very freeing, the concept of living your life, reminding yourself by saying, I can't control it. Who knows? Throw your hands up and be like, well, but yeah. Thinking about the cat name, Rainbow or Sparkles. Ooh, that's good. That's good. Those will be on the list. Yeah, I'm going to post in the community tab after this stream ends. I will post a poll where we'll vote on the cat's name. So everybody can cast their vote after. And people can keep commenting suggestions and things if you're watching the live stream after it ended. A Virgo vibe. Yeah, I don't have any Virgo in my chart. It is kind of Virgo-y though. 10, 15 minutes depending on how many people are here asking questions, how many questions there are. And then tomorrow in the morning, we'll do another stream with the purpose of, there she goes again, with the purpose of just doing like a study hall. Not so chatty, just opening it up to everybody to study and just work on whatever it is they're working on all together here on my channel. So I think that's what we're going to do. So if anybody has any more questions, now's the time to pop them in the chat because we're going to be wrapping up soon. Okay, so our last little bit of questions before we wrap up for the day, and we're going to keep doing this, so don't worry if you're not here or if you have a question you want to ask later. We're going to keep doing this on my channel. Um, Hoping to make it like a weekly regular thing. Let's see, our final questions. Oh, I'm so glad that my videos about OCD helped you. Yeah, I also have CPTSD. That's something I haven't really talked about on my channel, but I also have that, so I relate to you. I'm glad I could help other people like me. My mother gifted me a statue of Bast 2 months ago, and I haven't worked with her energy before, even though I have cats and am a cat lover. I didn't set up an altar and haven't felt her energy. Any advice about that? Should I set up an altar or wait? It's up to you. Think about, does Bastet have a place in your life? You said you're a cat lover, so seems like that's Bastet's energy. So even just having a cat means that Bastet is semi-present for you, even if you don't feel her in other ways. And setting up an altar to her could be a way that you start to feel her presence more strongly in your life. So I would say just go for it. Set up an altar, especially if you already have the statue and you are a cat lover. So I'm sure it'll be a very quick connection that the two of you will have once you set up an altar. But yeah, I would say go for it for sure. Yeah, and I have to say, I like to ignore negativity, but it's my channel, so I shouldn't have to feel like I need to censor myself. Um, but yeah, James, comments like yours are why I don't try things. So maybe just if you're going to be coming onto my channel and watching my streams, just be a little bit more respectful. I'm going to be getting mods eventually here, so that's something to look forward to so we can all stay safe and positive during the stream. But yeah, so any last minute questions before we wrap up? Remember to comment what you want to name our little stream cat so we can get our cat a name. And thank you to those of you that showed up for this stream. I'm so glad that we were able to get together like this. Tomorrow, we're going to stream in the morning for sure because I know what the problem was with my camera and I will be able to fix it if I'm able to stop the stream. I just don't want to stop the stream in the middle and then restart again. So we'll be streaming again tomorrow, probably at around 10 a.m. Pacific, but I will post on here on YouTube on my community tab the final time, but it'll probably be 10 Pacific. So I will see you guys tomorrow morning. Thank you so much for showing up. I hope that this was helpful. If you watch this later, I hope you enjoy rewatching it despite the strobing. And tomorrow there will be no strobing. So be patient with me. I struggle to be patient with myself. So I'm trying to be chill about it. And just let things flow as they flow. Yeah, it was so great to talk with you guys. I love this little community we have, and it's just going to keep growing. So thank you guys so much. I'll see you guys tomorrow. And if you have questions that didn't get answered or you missed the stream, bring them tomorrow or bring them to the next stream. We're going to keep doing this. So much love to all of you guys. You guys have a beautiful rest of your day, and I will see you tomorrow morning.